Sakura Haruka is a high school student who lives life the way he wants to, but is shunned by his peers in school as a result. Early one morning, a woman is being hassled by a group of guys who have already peaked in life. She's got a carton full of eggs, so she's obviously got places to be, but these guys don't care and keep asking her to come have some fun with them. She refuses and tells the leader that she would smash her eggs into his face if it wouldn't be incredibly wasteful, but she has no time to waste on lowlives like him and his friends, so she will be leaving now. The leader doesn't know how to take no for an answer, so he forcefully grabs her hand, hurting her in the process, which is when Sakura intervenes. At first, he tries to be civil and handle the situation like a reasonable person, so he tells the leader of the boys to pack it up because it's too early in the morning to be doing dumb stuff like this. Unfortunately, logical reasoning doesn't work when your brain is the size of a walnut, so the leader tries to swing on Sakura, only to get his punch cleanly dodged. He then proceeds to get beaten up so bad that the cameraman had to cut away, but once he is back in frame, Sakura is standing over him, calling him and his friends weak. He's not scared of a fight, so if anyone has a problem with him, it should remember that his name is Sakura Haruka from Furin High. Afterwards, he simply begins walking away without saying a word to complete his badass moment, but the girl who had been watching everything happen the whole time finally snaps out of her daze and chases after him. She grabs a hold of his arm and thanks him for saving her, but Sakura is confused because no one has ever thanked him for anything before. His brain short-circuits, so he instantly goes into tsundere mode as he tells her that he didn't do it for her sake or anything. He just got pissed off by the way the guy was acting. The girl ignores his outburst and asks if he is hungry by any chance, which Sakura initially denies, but no one can turn down a good omelette, so he ends up at the girl's restaurant. While making small talk, she realizes that Sakura isn't originally from this town, which explains why she hasn't seen him around before. Recently, there have been a lot of gangs fighting in the area, so normal people tend to steer clear of the area. She introduces herself as Tachibana, but Sakura is still trying to figure out why this girl is being so friendly to him. Most people would be afraid of someone who they saw take on 5 guys easily, but she doesn't seem to care at all. She asks if he's not going to eat the food she made for him since he hasn't taken a bite yet, so Sakura immediately starts eating and he loves it. As he eats, Tachibana comments on how unique he looks since half his face is colored different, but she can tell that it's just the way he looks naturally. Her face gets a little too close, so Sakura freaks out and jumps back. After calming down a bit, Sakura says he's surprised that she doesn't find him weird since most people would call him gross for the way he looked. Tachibana doesn't find his appearance all that strange since she is used to seeing people with much worse fashion choices. With that aside, she asks if his appearance has anything to do with the reason he came here in the first place. Sakura tells her she's right since he came here because the way he looks doesn't matter when it comes to a fight. Furin is notorious for having the most brain-dead students but also the best fighters, so brawls take place every day to decide who's on top. Sakura isn't excluded from the Walnut Brain Society, so a school like this is the only place that he's got a shot at making a name for himself. Tachibana now understands Sakura's motivations, but that doesn't stop her from making fun of him for being so excited for school that he wore his uniform today when Furin doesn't open until tomorrow. Sakura denies it, but his embarrassment only tells Tachibana that she's right about him. While they were bickering, an old man named Yama had just finished his meal and is heading out. But just before he leaves, Sakura notices that he left his bag behind, so he gets his attention and hands it back to him. A little while later, Tachibana comes over and says Yama was thankful for Sakura's help, so he wanted her to give him some candy as a sign of gratitude. Sakura still isn't used to being thanked for anything, so he asks why the people here are being so nice to him. Normally, people would take one look at him and think he is a delinquent, so they'd be on guard. One time, he tried to return someone's wallet, but he got the cops called on him because the person accused him of stealing it. Tachibana tells Sakura that he made the right choice coming to Fujin, but as he is now, there is no way he's beating anyone, let alone becoming the top dog, and that all because of one thing. He may be strong, but he is alone, so he's gonna get his ass jumped. Hearing her say he's alone strikes a nerve with Sakura, so he angrily states that he is not weak, so there's no reason for him to rely on other people just to win a fight. She admits that Sakura may have the strength to back up his claim, but it would be best if he goes to meet some other kids from Furin, then he will understand what she means. While walking home, Sakura finds himself confronted by the gang leader from earlier, and this time he has brought the entire squad for the sole purpose of jumping Sakura. He isn't really in the mood to deal with this right now, so he just tries to ignore them and walk away, but the leader stops him just to start making fun of the way he looks. Honestly, this is what Sakura was waiting for, since this jerk is the kind of person he has been dealing with his entire life. They always look at him with disgust, so he has given up on trying to fit in. People just make assumptions based on what he looks like, so if the world wants him to be a delinquent, he's going to do just that. He punches the leader straight in the face once more and proceeds to take on the entire gang all at once, and he's actually winning. They keep coming after him, but even though some of them are armed with bats, he continues to avoid their attacks and single-handedly drop the average IQ score among the gang members with the brain damage he's inflicting. While all this is going on, Tachibana was inside her store cleaning up the dishes, and while I've got nothing against her, this dumbass decided it was a good idea to go outside and check what's going on. Well, she gets grabbed and held at knife point so they can use her as a hostage to get Sakura to let his guard down. However, as soon as Sakura sees Tachibana in danger, he pulls off some cool acrobatics and drops the guy before he ever had the chance to use his knife. One guy tries to sneak up behind Sakura, but he's not going to call for something as cheap as that and roundhouse kicks the guy's face into a wall. He continues beating them down, but having to protect Tachibana is really limiting the amount of damage he can do, and if this keeps up, he's going to get overrun. He doesn't even know why he bothered helping her in the first place, since he barely knows her. As he continues fighting, one of the guys he had knocked out before regains consciousness and grabs the knife that had been thrown to the floor, slashes Sakura's ankle. He then almost gets his head smashed in by a guy with a bat, but he manages to stay back at the last moment, although with his injured ankle, his mobility is going to be limited. He has no chance of evading the next attack, so he just braces himself for the inevitable beating he's going to get. However, before the bat can make him even dumber than he was before, he gets saved by a guy who was also wearing the same Furin uniform as him. The guy thanks Sakura for protecting Tachibana, and she looks happy to see him. He asked her not to tell their boss that she was in danger so he doesn't flip out, but now that he is here, he'll make sure the situation gets handled. He grabs the bat from the gang member and elbows High-Face so hard that he gets put down for a compulsory nap, after which he then turns to the rest of the people there as his friends arrive. These punks have made a mess of the town with their antics, so they are going to have to pay for it. The gang is understandably scared since they were already barely winning against one guy, but now they've got to deal with 4 more. There's no backing out at this point, so they all attack at once even though they know they got no chance at winning. All the Furin guys are just as tough as Sakura, so this fight is a one-sided beating. One guy tries to go after Sakura, and since his ankle is injured, he's not able to get out of the way in time. Luckily, Hiraji steps in and kicks the guy into a wall. He tells Sakura to stand back if he is hurt, since they won't be able to protect him if he gets himself caught in the middle, and Sakura just remains dumbfounded as people begin to cheer for the Furin guys to beat up the gang so they can get on with their days. This is nothing like what Sakura was expecting when he came here, and he never would have thought that the people here would be so supportive of Furin. Tachibana then explains to him that when she said gang make this place unsafe, that it only applies up until about 2 years ago. This was because of the students at Furin High who took the town's security upon themselves and put up a notice board at the entrance. Anyone dumb enough to cause trouble in their town will leave the town with more brain damage than they started with, because they are the town's shield, otherwise known as Windbreaker. That's why the townspeople love them so much now. It's true that they were a bunch of lowlives 2 years ago, but that was 2 years ago, and now they are loved by everyone here. Sakura can't help but feel jealous that despite fighting like that, these guys are still accepted by everyone here as though they are heroes when all he ever got was scorn. He is still in shock when the townspeople turn their attention to him and start thanking him for holding off the gang until everyone else arrived. Since his ankle is hurt, an old lady offers to give him some first aid, but all this kindness is too much for him to process, so he has another outburst. Tachibana understands why he is acting this way, so she takes over the first aid for him and says that she can tell that he is alone, but he didn't choose to be alone. Whatever circumstances may have caused it, he doesn't need to give up on the people here because they need him. He was still kind enough to return Yema's bag, and he even put himself at risk to save her. So if he is willing to look towards them, then they won't turn their backs on him. Sakura doesn't know how to respond, so instead he takes off running towards the crowd and proceeds to jump 10 feet into the air. He transitions into a drop kick aimed at the gang leader who is trying to sneak up on Hiraji, and while he's not sure how he feels about this whole playing hero thing, but if people will accept him the way he is, then he will fight to defend the town. This was the end of episode 1. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to not miss the next part.